So, you paying attention? What do we just discuss? Let's I'll sip my coffee. Just take a minute. Lots of inputs that I just gave you. This was a quick recap, right? So we had the defining what a macro acquisition system is. We had designing your macro client acquisition system, the large side of things. We had micro action chains and stimuli chains. We talked about the client acquisition inputs, the micro action chain, and that was about it. And garbage in, garbage out. So let me take a sip of my coffee. Let's carry on. From macro to micro client acquisition systems. Your macro acquisition system isn't one giant unified process. It's a carefully coordinated network of smaller specialized subsystems. Each one plays a role in helping your prospect transition from one mental, emotional state to the next. You have latent conditions, which goes to attention, which transitions into interest, into appointments, into shows, into prime prospects, and into closed deals. These are the 6 systems that you just need to crank out to get clients, right? And to truly understand how a prospect becomes a client, we need to layer in a powerful mental model. We call these the 5 stages of awareness, first introduced by Eugene Schwartz. These stages reflect the internal state of the buyer as they journey from oblivious to action. Understanding these 5 stages allow client acquisition architects to design subsystems that speak to the exact mindset of the prospect at each moment, from unaware to problem aware to solution aware to product aware and most aware. So I'm sure you guys have, if you're marketers, you know this as clear as day. Unaware is that the prospect doesn't even know they have a problem. At this stage, your job is to educate, storytell, or create curiosity around a pain or possibility. Content should be the soft touch and emotional resonance. Problem aware. They've realized something isn't working, but they don't know yet what solution exists. This is where you position the problem more sharply and frame it with relevance. Think lead magnets, reframes, and agitation-based messaging. Solution aware. Now they're searching for possible ways to fix their problem. Your message must begin to introduce your solution category, showing them not just what could help them, but how. Finally, product aware. This is the buyer that knows about your specific product or service and is comparing it to others. This is where differentiation matters, social proof, case studies, proof points, and comparison all shines here. Then finally, we have the most aware, which is the fact that the buyers are ready to act. They just need a nudge, urgency, bonus, guarantees, and fast paths to decide, to help with their decisions, to help here. Your systems at this stage should focus on reducing friction and accelerating action. Each stage calls for different stimuli, delivery systems, and messaging logic. The brilliance of system design is not assuming all your prospects are in the same headspace. No. There are people in many different buckets, guys. You can't just assume like if you're selling AI, they're not even problem aware or unaware of the fact that what AI can do for them. It truly is so hard to sell someone. Like, imagine this, it's so hard to sell someone on helping them out with onboarding when they are just about interested in GoHighLevel. Like, they don't even know the pain points of onboarding. So this is just not like, it's just, you have to sell them on GoHighLevel and you have to sell them on how your services, so we were helping out with the onboarding side of things, could help them with that. Not worth it, right? It's engineering paths that meet where they are and move them forward predictably. By integrating these stages of awareness into your subsystems, you avoid misfires like trying to close someone who hasn't even acknowledged their problem. You design with empathy, with relevance, and with far more efficiency. This awareness-based thinking forms the bedrock of smart microsystem designs, and when done right, it transforms your funnels from a static asset into a living, adaptive experience. Your macro acquisition systems isn't one giant unified process. It's a carefully coordinated network of smaller specialized subsystems. Each one plays a role in helping your prospect transition from one mental, emotional state to the next. These shifts aren't just transactional, they're psychological. People don't leap from cold to closed overnight, guys. Look, like cold to closed. You don't go on a first date and then get married the next day. Maybe some people do, but I didn't. It took me 5 years. That was a long sales cycle, right? So they move gradually from unaware to aware to aware to curious to interested and interested to committed. Every one of these stages represent a transformation in how a prospect sees you, your offer, and your needs. Understanding this progression is key. It's not enough to have a funnel. You need to understand the precise function of each subsystem within the funnel and how it contributes to the larger whole. And here's an important truth to keep in mind as you architect your system. Not every person who enters your ecosystem is ready to buy. Roughly 70% of your audience isn't going to buy, right? They're in the wrong stage, wrong fit, or simply not motivated enough to take action. Another 20% could buy, with the right nurture, education, and framing, but only 10% are actually truly ready to buy. Right? So you basically have 30% of your leads that you can close, which sucks. But that's just the reality of the situation, right? You have guys who are in awareness, guys who are in consideration, and then guys and girls who are ready to be in conversions. The not thinking about it and open to it, if you can get like these people to start being open to it and start looking to buy into it, you make lots of money. That means your systems can't just be optimized for closers. It has to be designed to educate, qualify, and nurture the majority. This is where the real leverage of systems thinking comes in. You're not just trying to convert everyone. You're trying to build infrastructure that helps each segment move to the next logical step until they're either disqualified or fully ready to convert, right? So the job of an acquisition architect is to identify these transition points with precision and design specific mechanisms that support each shift. This could be small as a subject line that sparks attention, or as layered as a follow-up sequence that reactivates stalled leads. Each transformation stage demands its own logic, assets, and levers, and that's what gives systems their edge. Beautiful. Once you begin breaking down your processes, right, this way, something powerful happens. You gain control. Instead of reacting to broad performances trends, you can see like the exact pinpoint, the exact subsystem that is underperforming and intervene surgically. So we talked about this last time, guys, right? So cold to warm, we talked about the 5 stages of awareness, and we talked about the macro to micro client acquisition systems, right? Now let's talk about deconstructing the macro acquisition systems into sort of terminologies that you are more familiar with. So instead of latent conditioning, it's lead generating. Instead of turning that latent conditioning and attention into leads or appointments, we call it lead generation and lead nurturing, appointment booking, sales conversion, priming, and then appointment show-up rates. So the first step is recognizing that your client acquisition system isn't one monolithic machine. It's a chain of interconnected subsystems, each designed to produce a single critical transformation in their buyer's journey. You have lead generation, which brings new attention into the ecosystem. Lead nurturing, which keeps that attention warm, builds trust, and filters its interest. Appointment booking, which converts interest into scheduled intent. Appointment show-up, which is ensures your booked calls actually happen. Priming, which prepares the lead psychologically before the sales conversion. Sales conversion, which turns conversions into committed clients. Each of these stages is a subsystem, and each of these reinforce or restricts the next. When your architect is modular, you can isolate and improve each link in the chain without having to rebuild the whole goddamn system. Maybe your appointment show rate is low. You don't need to scrap your ad strategy, right? That's fine. You need to improve your confirmation process. It's not that like if you see this, like if you see the fact that, hey, the show up rate over here is struggling, right? Appointment booking to sales conversion, which is trying to get them to actually show up. Oh, sorry. Appointment booking to appointment show up rate. Don't know why this error's here. Apologies. It's not due to the lead gen issue. Well, it could be, but it could also be due to probably the gap between booking and the gap between showing. Do they have enough incentive? Do they have enough motivations? Are you reminding them enough? Like, you don't need to scrap your ad strategy. You need to improve your confirmation process, add calendar reminders, or reframe expectations in your nurture emails. This is the most powerful. This is the power of subsystem thinking. But how do you know where the real issue lies? You run a system health diagnostic test, looking at the 4 key performance traits of any acquisition engine. Throughput, which is the number of leads, the volume of leads or users, right, moving through each subsystem over time. For example, how many leads per week are progressing through from nurture to book call. A healthy lead generation engine might have high throughput, but if the next stage is weak, momentum dies, right? So this is your faucet, this is the pipes, your acquisition pipes, and this is the throughput, which is what happens when let's say you start running ads, you turn up the faucet, you show a lot of people your stuff and your offer, throughput begins to come through, then there'll be bottlenecks, which I'll actually get into next, which essentially talks about the specific points in your system where progress slows down or stops. So if you're booking calls but no one is showing up, yeah, I'm sorry about that. That kind of sucks. Sorry, let me finish this. So if it slows down or stops, if you're booking calls but no one's showing up, your bottleneck is between booking and show up. That's where your focus goes to, not on redesigning the whole funnel. Then yield. So this is the total number of successful conversions produced across your pipeline. Maybe your booking and show up rates are high, but only 2 out of the 30 actually convert. So that's yield issue in your priming or sales subsystems, as opposed to the actual upfront side of things. Then lastly, you have latency, which is the time delay between a new lead generating into your system and becoming a client. If it takes 30 days to go from lead magnet to sale, can you shorten the nurture cycle? Can you accelerate priming to reduce drop-off? Can you I once had it before where a new lead opt-in, we called them within the minute, we booked them into a sales call, and they got closed for 15K. If you lower the latency or lower the time between throughput and yield, you can collect a lot more cash upfront. Good fun. So now let's diagnose this acquisition system in action. So let's say your GoHighLevel funnel works like this, right? You have 10,000 ad impressions, 500 of them actually clicked on it, so 5% click-through rate. You have 200 opt-ins, 50 appointments scheduled, and 40 calls that show up. And out of those 40 calls, you convert 10 of them. This is your GoHighLevel client acquisition funnel. Very simple. 10,000 impressions, 10 clients. Now, these numbers aren't just stats. They're signals. They're stories about subsystems' performances. And if leads opt in but don't book, your nurture subsystems may be weak. And if people book but they don't show, your appointment show-up systems is leaking. And if show-ups are solid but few are buying, your priming or sales systems need refinement. And the more clearly you see the systems, the more precisely you can intervene. But observation alone isn't enough. You need a way to interpret what you see to understand why a breakdown happened and what to do next. That's why we have these mental models.